What do you think when you hear the term business laptop? For me, I think of something that's really ordinary looking, perhaps decently powered, but most of all, packed full of security features. Now, all that I've just said still holds true, even till today, though I guess design has definitely seen an improvement in the past couple of years or so, especially for this segment. Now, what I have with me today is one of those business laptops, but it's still slightly different. Slightly different. This is the HP ProBook x360 435G7, and what makes this different right off the bat are the specs. Unlike most business laptops which run Intel vPro processors, this is actually running an AMD chip. To be specific, it's powered by an AMD Ryzen 7 4700U, 16GB of RAM and 1TB of NVMe storage. Now, for those of you who've been following the channel, you'll know that I am quite a big fan of AMD, especially with their recent Ryzen lineup. In fact, my desktop right behind me, my personal rig, is running an AMD Ryzen 9 3900 XT, and it's simply awesome. With this laptop running a Ryzen 7 4700U, this is no exception. With that Ryzen 7 4700U sporting 8 cores and 8 threads, it's got admirable results in Cinebench R20 with a multi-thread score of 2576 and a single thread score of 455. This is pretty much on par with the heavyweights like the Intel Core i7-10750H, but at half the wattage. Even in DaVinci Resolve, although not as great as the bigger Ryzen 7 4800U, it still managed to do decently well, with the 10-minute 1080p edit taking about 53 minutes to render and the 15-minute 4K edit taking about 1 hour and 11 minutes. Of course, this is all taking into account how Resolve likes beefy GPUs and the thermal constraints of this specific laptop, which I'll touch upon later. But back to the laptop, and as you can tell, the design looks just like most high-end consumer laptops nowadays. It's made entirely out of aluminum and is basically premium to the touch and really sturdy at that. For the display, you do get a few options depending on where you're from, but for our unit, it's a 13.3-inch 1080p IPS panel that fully supports touch, covers 100% sRGB and has a max brightness of about 380 nits. It's a great display, be it just for general usage or watching videos on YouTube. Though of course, no matter which display you choose, they are all glossy. No option for matte here. Now, my only gripe thus far with this laptop is actually with the display, or rather the frame surrounding it. The top and bottom bezels are just a tad too thick. This is a 13.3-inch display, yet because of this, it makes the laptop actually physically larger and doesn't really look that modern compared to what we have on the market nowadays, even within HP's own lineup. But if you're using this more often in tablet mode, then I guess it's not too bad. Now, with it being a 360 product, you can of course flip the display all the way around and use it like a tablet should you so desire, or prop it up upside down on the table in a sort of tent mode to, well, watch YouTube. HP also provides a pen with the ProBook, so if you're the kind of person who prefers to jot down notes physically, or perhaps you're more into sketching or drawing, then I guess this is quite a nice touch. Now, there are still of you all might notice that there's actually a camera built in on the deck. This is the secondary camera. You do of course also get a primary camera located in its usual position, complete with a privacy shutter that's pretty much standard across all business laptops. But this second camera basically allows you to easily snap photos or videos in tablet mode and allow you to quickly send over what you've just captured in an email, or perhaps simply showing live in a conference call. So this is the webcam quality on the HP ProBook, and as you can tell, it's just 720p, but I guess it's decent enough for business or conference meetings and stuff like that, and I guess the mic is also passable as well. It's a webcam. If you need a webcam, it will get the job done. And of course, there's the included privacy filter as well, so there you have it. It isn't groundbreaking, neither is it anything unique, but I guess it might prove to be handy depending on your situation. But no matter how many unique features you cram into a laptop, it isn't a good laptop if the trackpad and keyboard isn't great. But I'm glad to say that these are two things you don't have to worry about. I barely made any mistakes while typing, and it was actually pretty comfortable to type for long periods at a time, while the trackpad simply felt great. no qualms at all, and I think this is as it should be for a business laptop. Speakers were also decent as well. With up-firing speakers from the deck, you get pretty clear sound and a decent soundstage. Bass is of course slightly lacking, but in all, it's okay for what it is. Ports wise, you get your power in, a Type-C port, 2 standard USB 3.1, of which the one on the left supports charging, HDMI 1.4b, headphone mic combo, and a micro SD card reader. As for battery life, you get a 45 Wh battery in this, and it will roughly last you 8 hours on average in a real world usage scenario. Thus far, this has been pretty much like any other review I've done on this channel, yet this is technically a business laptop. Why is that so? I would say that that's because the lines between a business laptop and a consumer or prosumer laptop have definitely blurred in the last couple of years or so. It just isn't as distinct as it was before. I would say that the main advantages of going with business laptops now in this day and age are just 3 things. The first being extended warranty coverage, the second being that privacy shutter for the webcam, and the third being additional software for boosted security. That's, well, it's a business laptop after all. But what actually intrigued me in this whole review of this laptop was actually that HP decided to go with the standard Ryzen 7 4700U instead of AMD's Ryzen Pro processors, which is AMD's counterpart to the Intel vPro processors, which are usually found in business laptops. I would say that this is because HP was trying to balance between thermals and performance, and unfortunately, the higher-end Ryzen Pro processor only has, or rather, it has 8 cores and 16 threads, while there isn't an option for an 8-core, 8-thread processor, which I think might be the limit for this thermal design. As I mentioned in our Resolve benchmarks, the reason why the render times were much slower was because of the thermal constraints of this laptop. Although it's pushing 25 watts under load, the temperatures were in the 90s and clock speeds take a hit. To add on, the fan was barely audible throughout the whole render, never spinning up much at all. My guess is that HP tuned this ProBook to make the most use out of that 4700U in most business scenarios, while keeping noise to the bare minimum, which of course does not include video editing. All in all, this has been a really interesting review. Although I guess most of you out there will definitely not be looking at this laptop because, well, it is a ProBook and it is a business laptop through and through. For the same price, you can get pretty much better quality consumer-based laptops from HP themselves or even other brands. But here's the takeaway. AMD is slowly getting a foothold into the business segment, which is, well, predominantly dominated by Intel. But AMD is really just offering so much more performance for the value. It's just value-packed. Ryzen is just value-packed. And with AMD slowly getting a foothold, I would say that that's a good sign. If you have any questions, drop us a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to us if you haven't. And if you'd like to support us, don't forget to check out the affiliate links in the description as well. If you do, thanks for your support. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Till the next one. See ya!